president of Ghana.
Right. The movement for change, and then of course the NPP would beg to differ. They would beg to differ. I've also been joined by Rich Star, me, Ama Fio, a man for whom I have a lot of respect, and then he is an international fisherman. I always say, he's a blue economy expert. He's also a.
I'm just a fisherman. I don't know why you are talking about. I'm just a very humble fisherman. Nonetheless,
Mr. Rista, good morning.
Good morning.
I trust all is fine.
Well, God is keeping us. Tuna vessels are packed for now, so we are not fishing. It's not just us; it's globally.
It's global.
Within the Atlantic, we have what we call moratorium on the use of fat. So we take this time to prepare our vessels and prepare ourselves for fishing.
How long does it take?
3 months.
Oh,
fishing
okay.
starts in April.
Okay.
So we are there. We are not doing anything. So we are getting our staffs together.
Right.
Then the fisherman that we are.
Right.
At least good morning to your listeners. It's been a while I saw KOD.
Yes, he was around, I think, on Monday. He only came to Flash, came to do the show once, and then he left.
He disappeared. He's practicing his law.
I tell you solemnly. Yeah. Right. So without further ado, we start the conversation. Boakai, His Excellency Boakai, he has taken over from George Weah, and it's not. I mean, the conversation about his taking over is not the speech he made, or the promises he's made to the good people of Liberia, but something that happened. He was unable to complete the entire duration of his inauguration, and that was because he was unwell. For somebody who is 79 and will become an octogenarian this year and has 6 years under his belt to rule the good people of Liberia, by the time or at the end of which he will be 86 years old. Much has been spoken about the ages of African leaders, and this health issue I think falls in that domain. And I'm glad that I have someone here who is also a health expert. Professor Titus Bayo is a doctor. He works with the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, but he also has political ambitions. But this one will look at the politics, will combine the politics with health. Yes, and then he's going to start a conversation for us, and would look at why that is. The heat that caught the newly sworn in president, and the fact that he was unable to complete the entire duration of his inauguration, and then he had to be taken away to the hospital. We've heard news that he's perfectly fine, he's okay, which is good news. That's what the doctors are saying, and I think we saw that with the Nigerian president as well, Tinubu, especially these presidents in the advanced ages. Doc.
Yeah. So first, I'll say congratulations to him and to the good people of Liberia for a successful transition and handing over of power. It's unfortunate it happened that way, but the good news is that he's better. And I think there are points for us to learn from. He is advanced in age, and what he suffered from what their own release tells us is a heat-related illness. They said heat exhaustion. And I'll quickly want to just let us know that heat exhaustion is part of a spectrum of illnesses we call heat-related illness. The worst part of it is the heat stroke. And the people of Liberia should be fortunate that he's well, which means that he suffered the milder form, which is the heat exhaustion. And these will typically happen when the external environment is very high, causing your body temperature to go very high. And the heat exhaustion will happen when the temperature is less than 40 degrees Celsius. Our normal body temperature is regulated much less than that. When your temperature goes above 37, many people will have the signs of fever, where your body will be warm. But when it's between 37 to about 40, then close to 40, you can have this experience. And when it goes beyond 40, then you're likely to go into heat stroke. The heat stroke can be deadly. And when it happens, you can get into delirium or confusion and get coma. The spectrum that he suffered from usually will manifest as feeling unwell, feeling dizzy, lightheaded, and I'm sure that is what he suffered. And the people tried to fan him to help him continue and finish, but I'm sure the dizziness recurred, and they took the wise decision to get him off to rest. So what are the learning points there? For people who are managing, well, the risk factors definitely is the high temperature in the environment, and then when the person doesn't have air around him for good exchange of the temperature, and then something we call the thermoregulation, like the regulation of their body temperature by the brain fails. And if that fails, then the body temperature keeps rising. All of us can be exposed to extreme heat, but if you are of young age and all your systems are functioning well, we expect your body to keep your body temperature low, even though the external environment can be as high as 40. So you see that you can be in a place where the environment forecast for that day is about 40 degrees, but your body temperature will still be 36 or 37 because the body is able to regulate it. But when you are of this age, then that regulation becomes questionable. So my advice to people who are managing such persons, and it's a huge problem on the African continent, but it's not only Africa. Look at the age of the American president. Yeah. So for all persons managing or handling very elderly people like this, first, when they are going for public events, you should monitor what the weather forecast for that day says in terms of the heat pattern. If it's expected to be extremely high, you must make sure that the person is hydrated, adequately hydrated. So some good water should be by him while he's speaking, and should be encouraged to take in sips. And then he should be allowed to be in a space where there is a lot of air around him to allow that exchange. And we should also check the dressing, because if you wear very heavy dresses, that doesn't allow your body to exchange the maybe when you sweat and the sweat evaporates, it cools your body. So if you don't have access to all of that, then you are likely to go into this. But I should say that we should be very thankful to God that it only happened to be the milder form, which is the heat exhaustion, which usually you recover from very quickly. We should learn from it and make sure that we don't create such environment. It could easily have happened in Ghana, and it can happen in a lot of places, as we've seen also in Nigeria. But in most instances, I think the response is swift, and that's what gives us good outcome. But if you allow it, it continues to the worst form, which is heat stroke. And we see of people dying of heat stroke, especially in Europe and in the Americas, when they are in summer and the temperature is too high. So this is a reality and could have been fatal. So we ought to be careful about it. Yeah.
Now, let's move away from the conversations on his health, and look at the political aspect as well. We all take cognizance, or we all acknowledge the fact that in as much as George Weah was the sitting president, he lost the elections, and he has amicably, peacefully handed over power. Something that we usually do not see on the African continent, especially when it's just your first term, at the helm of affairs. What lessons can we draw from this?
Okay. So I think the first thing is that we have a similar example. They are following after the example from Ghana. We had a first example where His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, also at the end of his first term, willingly and agreed to hand over power, even though we had disagreement with the electoral process. And I think these are things for other African leaders to learn. So I congratulate Weah on that. I also congratulate their electoral commission, the electoral body. See, when you conduct elections that are fair and transparent, people are more likely to accept the results, and then it doesn't go into all sort of argument. So we congratulate the good people of Liberia and the electoral body for coming out with the results that the people have accepted and allowed the transition of power to go on. And you see, when the people decide, really, there's very little you can do than to throw the country into chaos. And I don't think that anybody who means well for their country will be seeking to throw the country into chaos. What is it? I want to serve you. The people say, we are okay, we don't need you to serve us at this point. Why should that be a problem? And so when you see people going into an election and saying that I would insist, I will make sure I hand over government to the next person in my party, then you ask yourself, what really are you talking about? Because some of these statements, it is the will of the people. So tell us that you would do well, you would make sure that you perform so creditably that the people will be happy to honor your party with another tenure. Then the Electoral Commission must also conduct itself in a way that is transparent and acceptable, so that when these results are declared, everybody sees that, look, this is the will of the people. But if people see any attempt to subvert the will of the people, that is when this kind of chaos will come in. So with what happened in Liberia, there was even a runoff. And throughout the whole process, it was peaceful, was accepted. And then the natural thing is that the people think they are fed up with you. So hand over to someone else. What else do? You have to hand over. So I think he has done the honorable thing. It is not out of place. It is not an extraordinary achievement, because we've demonstrated same in Ghana. But for the fact that they have also followed it. And looking at that country's history, I think the memories of the Civil War is still fresh on their mind. And even if you went out declaring some chaos, I wonder if people will even follow you. So a good leader must study the situation and realize that, look, we are building a nation. Let's continue to build that nation. And I congratulate them for it. Yeah.
Great. Let me say good morning to you, Councillor Pierre Dankwa. Welcome. I trust you're fine.
Yes, I'm doing great.
Great.
Sorry for uncharacteristically appearing.
That's unusual.
Appearing because slight traffic.
Right.
And also to wish my fellow panelists a good morning. I can see my blue economy professor. Professor here. Always a pleasure to be in this country. And I'm meeting Prof for the very first time.
I'm actually very excited about this panel. I mean, the worth of knowledge that all of you present to the table. Yesterday when I made the calls initially in the days past, and then all of you agreed to come, I was very excited. I was very, very, very excited. I'll take your thoughts, Mr. Rista, on happenings in Liberia, the fact that there's been a change of government, the fact that the outgone president, George Weah, he has even come out to say that he's not going to contest, future elections. He will just want to stay back, be a statesman, and contribute to the peace and growth of the country. And what happened particularly during the inauguration, where the president actually suffered heat exhaustion, didn't complete his inauguration, had to be taken to the hospital. But now we understand he's fine, he's stable.
Well, I think that what can I say when the professor himself had given us reasons why that should happen, and probably also cautioned us exactly what we should do. We got into a point. I visited a friend of mine, and the lights were off, and he was sitting under the tree, and he still couldn't. He kept fanning himself because we've gotten so used to air conditioning that the moment we are exposed to external heat, it becomes a challenge. From your bedroom to your living room to your car to your office to a restaurant. Everywhere you step
to the studio,
you have
We just turn this one off. We'll try and turn this.
You have air conditioning all over you.
Yeah.
What else have we done? We've basically cut off all trees.
Yeah.
Especially in Nagrata. Look at what we are doing to the Achimota forest.
Yeah, it's sad.
So we are exposed to the direct sunlight. Sometimes I drive around and I'm like, when I was young, there were mango trees everywhere we passed. You could pluck green mangoes and all of that. You could sit under some tree to have some shade, and now you don't have it.
You know the land for residential property.
But even in that sense, you still have the opportunity to plant trees in your house or in your community, just so that you would have some good oxygen and then you have some shade. But we're taking out virtually everything. Now we are moving into more crowded society, and programs like that, we are such that we don't plan. So we bus all our followers there, and people are all over the place, and
the whole place is dense.
The whole place is so dense.
Yeah.
And you expect such things to happen to a man 79 years old. So we thank God for his life that he didn't get to the extreme like Prof was saying, but they've managed to resuscitate him, and he's doing well. He may take the oath if it's before Parliament.
No, he did take
but so it's the inaugural speech.
Yeah,
well, he
so
could do so. He could do so. So it means that he's already a president.
Yeah.
So he could do so from live broadcast on television.
Yeah.
So that everybody will get the opportunity to listen to him, for him to complete his statement. My challenge has to do with why we have decided as Africa to go for older people, and it's the younger generation that are voting for the older generation. And we keep saying that wisdom resides in the aged, but I'm not sure that is true. Being a Christian, David was made king when he was very young.
Yeah.
I don't remember any leader in the Bible who led the people at old age. What I know is that the old people stay behind, and then we go to them to seek advice. They don't take the lead role in what we do, because you see, it gets to a point people have dementia, and because of what they may have been when they were young, you still think that when you give them leadership position at that old age, they will still be able to perform like when they were young.
It's a reality.
And you give them the position, they would wish they could do it, but because they have intermittent illness and dementia and all of that, they tend to rely on people to do things for them. The people they rely on probably do not even have appreciation and do not have the same zeal that the older people may have had. They don't share in their vision. They feel so insecure and see an opportunity to be able to secure their lives and the lives of their generations to come. So they just do anything just to survive. And the proclivity to elect old people into positions of trust in Africa and to appoint older people to manage the affairs of Africa would have to be looked at again.
Seriously.
We need young people. We need people who want to achieve for the country and make names for themselves. And probably we, the younger people, would also have to show that we are capable of providing the leadership. Under the Rawlings regime, when Rawlings started, most of the people he worked with, their Hoyt and all of that, were not up to 40 years at the time they were leading this country. Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah was a young man when he became the first president and led Ghana into independence. So it's been proven that younger people have what it takes to lead this country and to lead many countries. France elected a very young person. Obama, Bill Clinton, and all of them, they were younger people when they were president. Look at the challenges the US is having with Joe Biden.
Yeah.
There have been occasions where he had even fallen flat in public and all of that. No, it's serious. Look at Putin. Once he advances in age, the way he does things are different from when he was younger, when he was the prime minister. After was it Boris Yeltsin?
He was president first.
He was president, prime minister, and then became president again. After Boris Yeltsin,
Yes.
When he came, the things he was doing
Then.
with Russia are totally different from what he's doing now at old age. So it tells you that age does not necessarily come with knowledge, or ability to perform. Because the older you become, the more you rely on people to do things that you ordinarily would have done and supervised by yourself. You now would want to rely on others to do it and rely on others to supervise and now report to you. So it is no longer a direct thing you are doing. It is now about relying on people. And how sure are you about the people you want to rely on? And we need to look at it. And then the health aspect. Look at what happened to the South Sudanese president when he stood in public and all he could do was to wee-wee on himself. Look at Paul Biya. Paul Biya is still president. When he himself is unaware of the environment he is in, he was taken into a conference, he was given the mic, and he didn't even know where he was, and he didn't even know what he was supposed to say, and he was just holding the mic. It's so embarrassing that, and so today, Paul Biya remains the president and he wins elections in Cameroon. Look at Nigeria elected Tinubu, and things are getting worse. Because with the experience from Obasanjo and then Buhari, I was thinking the Nigerians would now look at a younger person who would drive the system, drive young people, get young people to work. But no. What we are seeing now is telling us that Nigeria seems to be going back. Even though a few people are becoming richer every day, the country as a whole is struggling. So I'm worried for Africa if we will continue to keep the older people at the helm of affairs, whereas we the young people will keep shouting and hailing them, even when they are making the worst mistakes that would send our country into a big doom. Not a doom, so a big doom. It's worrying. So yes, we are happy that the president managed to survive what I would call a heat storm that may have arisen in the course of getting himself inaugurated. But we need to learn that, one, we need to keep an environment that is healthy for ourselves. At least now Ghana, we have Land and Spatial Planning Authority. So far I've not seen what they are doing, but we need to have a lot of, not artificial trees, we need to have a lot of trees everywhere. I was in Germany in 2007 on the invitation of the German government on a program they call Cities in Transition. Because, they were basically merging the East German into the West German to have one German, and went to places like Leipzig and part of Berlin and all of those places. And realized that they were demolishing big flats and creating open spaces and parks.
Yeah.
And that was what they were calling cities in transition. And what was the reason? The German population was becoming more like a cone, because you have an aging population up there, and you have younger population that were not ready to marry. They're not ready to have children.
The population was declining.
So the population was declining, and then it was heavy top. So, and because of their social system, you have less people working to take care of more retired people.
It's more like an inverted pyramid.
Yes, so that's why it's a cone. So they were encouraging more young people to get married. And one of the challenge they had was that when they had children around the East German area, which was less developed, they didn't have open spaces and parks. So they were demolishing structures to create parks and open spaces, and then modify the building so that younger people or younger couple could move in, and then when they have children, they will have parks and all those things that their children could play. Come to Tema, all the green belts and open spaces between the communities are built up areas. All the trees are gone.
Even and
it's not like they were used for anything useful. Most of them have been used for drinking sports, and it's sad, but you see, that's a harsh reality. So we deny the children the opportunity to use those parks, and what we have done is to bring in drinking sports where all manner of activities are happening at night. So our younger children and siblings now, instead of playing in an open space and park, have the opportunity to use those parks as nightclubs and all those things. And so they learn all manner of things. That is the mentality. Whereas some people were bringing down buildings to create open spaces and parks, we are destroying the open spaces and building nightclubs and all of that. So I'm so keen on having a very green environment. I'm so keen on seeing that we treat nature very well, because everything about us is nature. And once we decide not to treat nature well, it may be an old man, it can happen to a younger person, because we are so much exposed to the sunlight. You can walk a distance, and when you are tired, you not get a tree to sit under to relax, and it's not too good for us.
Yeah.
So I think that's my initial.
Right. Thank you very much. Let me proceed to Councillor Apia Dankwa.
Yeah. So let me wish your viewers a good morning once again, and also take this opportunity to congratulate the people of Liberia for understep in their democratic journey. Liberia is one of the oldest, in fact it is the oldest country in Africa, but for their unfortunate civil war, you would have said that it was one of the most stable countries in Africa. Sadly, the civil war had to come, and after the civil war, it looks like, it looks like they are following Ghana in the steps we have supposedly taken in democracy. And so I'll congratulate them, except to say that they have followed Ghana they're following Ghana in one strand of what constitutes democracy. Because when you critically look at what is democracy, I'll say that there are three strands to it. That is, if you take the definition that Abraham Lincoln gave, the supposed definition Abraham Lincoln gave in his speech at Gettysburg, where he said democracy is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. My personal view is that in Ghana, what we are doing is just government of the people. The way we do our democracy is as if it's a voting exercise. So we go and vote 7th December, and that's it. What we are doing is not democracy, it's a third of democracy. So I advise the people of Liberia, yes, they've done well in advancing the cause of government of the people, but they should take a step further beyond what we are doing here to practice true democracy, which will be government not just of the people, but government by the people and for the people. Because if indeed what we are doing in Ghana was government also by the people and for the people, then our president will be afraid. He won't have the cockroach audacity to go and stand in front of the people of Ekunfi and tell them in their faces that because you did not vote for my MP, then I won't bring development. I didn't know the president owns MPs. So bless. Nana, do you own MPs? I didn't know the president. I didn't know the president owns MPs. No, we got to be serious, man. We have to be serious. The president, you don't own MPs. You don't own MPs, but the president will have that cockroach audacity because what you are practicing is not true democracy. What you are practicing is a third of what democracy is supposed to be. Yeah, you understand? Because if really the governments we were having, especially this government, if it was truly by the people, if it was an inclusive governance system where there's true accountability, a lot of the things that happen won't happen. I'm sure you have conveniently jumped the Black Stars issue. But you see, the Black Stars issue, the Black Stars issue is a
VP control mechanism.
Is the reflection of the incredible failure of governance.
They sacked the coach.
Yeah, they have sacked him. It's long overdue. That coach.
But you see, the coach, I've watched Chris Hughton when he was at Newcastle, and I've never liked his idea of football. But that is just a 1% of the problem we are facing.
There's a bigger problem.
There's a bigger problem. Yeah, that's that. Right now, the GFA and then the sports ministry, they are one, and they are pulling a huge one. My brother here was talking about the parks. You don't have parks in Ghana here. You want blasters to do well. How are you going to develop the talents? How are you going to develop the talents when there are no parks? And you see, because the governance is just of the people, though. No serious discussion was even had on this AstroTurf. Why would you be investing so much money, supposedly, on AstroTurf when FIFA is already banned AstroTurf? When medically, research, scientifically, is proving that AstroTurf will destroy your ankle, it will destroy your knee. You know, every footballer is all about what holds a footballer is your ankle and your knee. So if there's scientific proof that has caused FIFA to ban AstroTurf, if indeed we are doing real democracy, and it's not just the government or we are not voting machines. They've turned all of us into voting machines. We go and vote. That's all. But because it's not an inclusive government, it's not by the people, then there's no opportunity for serious discussions to be had about critical policies. Because this government has spent so much money on AstroTurf. Anyone wants us to do war? No. So I advise Liberia. Indeed, in fact, I wish the president was. It's very unfortunate I had a heat wave, but in Africa, our president has shown us that, listen, inaugural speeches is you go and say something to represent something. You don't say things that you mean. You understand? Okay, so inauguration, come and give your inaugural speech. Then you go and stand there, look nice and resplendent, you are president. But I'm going to protect the public purse. Give a vow on the most sacred day in your life. That is the apex of your political life. You go and give this speech. You tell the people of Ghana that I'm going to protect the public purse. And then what do? You go and you open the public purse ajar. And that is not enough for you. Then you attack the private purse.
Yeah.
You attack the private purse. You wiped out the middle class. You've destroyed the basis, the foundation, upon which we are going to have economic prosperity. That's the intermediary system. You destroy the banks. But you said you are going to protect the public purse. At your inauguration, you tell us that you are going to bring about what? Transformation. I'm going to bring about transformation. And quickly you spend 2.1 billion on NAPCO and reluctantly spend about 400 million on 1D1F, about the most transformational program or policy in your program. Clearly you don't want it. So you promise transformation and you bring about destruction. So people of Liberia should thank God that probably they are what's called a president didn't have a speech, the opportunity to give a speech. Yeah, because who knows? What would have been another 2.0. Because you see, we are tired of our leaders doing things just to present things and not having or demonstrating true commitment and bringing about the development of their people. Because really that's what politics is supposed to be about. If you understand that democracy is also power by the people and of the people, then we'll be having this sham of a local government system. Because the way in which you can have government by the people is to have a robust local government system where real accountability, where real inclusiveness in governance is hard. But this sham of a local governance system, and you have a president who, beyond any other leader we've had, has over-centralized the power at the top. Yeah. And he's doing nothing with that power. Bless. He's doing nothing with that power. So the president of Liberia just needs to have a look, a peep into this sham of a democracy we are practicing in Ghana here. And just do the opposite. And they'll be fine. I'm telling you. This divisive democracy. Because you see, why would the president have the audacity to be going to places like a Kofi and Mepe and say that, listen, you people didn't even vote for me, so I didn't even need to come here? Because he does not recognize that when he becomes president, he's president of Ghana. He does not understand that when you become president, you're not just president for the NPP people. You are president for the people of Ghana. And that your fundamental duty, beyond create a system where our lives are secured, create a system where our properties are protected, but also create an environment where we can have true prosperity. Yeah, you understand? But because in his mind, he's just president for the NPP people, what has happened? Right now, our properties have been, because that's the most fundamental, if you take the philosophy of governance, as in the social contract philosophy, where we say, listen, man in this natural state is very chaotic. And so let's give our power to a government so they'll protect our lives, to protect our liberties, and protect our properties. And our right, inherent right or inalienable right to pursue our own happiness. We understand that that is the fundamental duty of government. And you have a president under whose watch our properties, our private, and that's what I mean by the private persons have been attacked. In this, to this extent, then bless. We need to understand and appreciate that what we are doing here is not democracy. Because if you are practicing any system which is not wholly democratic, then you are not practicing democracy at all. Because democracy, in its purest form, is not going to vote on a certain date. That is not democracy. If the president, you have a president who thinks that he owns MPs, and MPs think that their duty, their obligation is to their political parties and not their constituents. Because when we talk about democracy, we talk about representation. And parliament is really essential. It's very critical. And so when you listen to the parliamentarians and their focus is just to more or less advance the causes of their party, not the causes of their constituents. Clearly what we are doing is not for the benefit of the people of Ghana. It's for the parochial interests of the politicians. And so the president of Liberia, if he wants to succeed, then he's 79 years old. I understand. And sometimes, like my brother is when people pass the age of 70, like they were too for advice and when he became president. He said, well, before you even think of being president, you've done very well in your private life. So what is pushing you? Also 79 years old. Your children are probably over 50 years. Yeah. So then what drives you? Yeah. Then what is driving you is not the bread and butter issues. No. Really, what is driving your life? Your motivation, your passion has gone beyond the bread and butter issues as in bread and butter issues. That what should is motivating you is a desire, a hunger for a legacy. Really. And so maybe when you are making an argument as to the advantages of having a younger person and older person, one strong argument you can make for having an older person. I'm not saying I support the older person, but one strong argument you can advance for why you should have is because you think that what ought to be driving them is a deep-seated hunger to leave behind a legacy. But it's strange that we mentioned the Cameroonian issue. Clearly, what is driving him? Or is he even aware to even have a drive?
He's not aware. He's very hesitant.
Is he even aware to have a drive? Is he even aware
he's forgotten he's the president.
To have a drive?
He doesn't even know.
Is he even aware he's president?
He doesn't know he's president.
He doesn't even remember that he's ever been president. He's not even aware that he's ever been president. I'm telling you.
When your mind fails you, it's a very sad state. It's a very sad state, but you can't do nothing about it. You know, it's a very sad state.
What seems to be driving our old men clearly? What seems to be driving our old men clearly is not a desire to leave any sort of legacy. Yeah. We should not chase power for power's sake, because, as I've said it here and I'll say it again, that when you read the Prince Machiavelli, he said what? The end justifies the means. A lot of our current politicians, they think in politics, the end is power. No, the end is not power, because power is like a vehicle.
It's a means,
Power is like a vehicle, it's like money. Because in Ghana, another thing that is destroying our society is money. Because we think the end is money. But you see, once you think that way, that the end is power, the end is money, then you've lost it. Because money is not the end. Power is not the end. Power is just a vehicle that is supposed to take from point A to point B. And so when they go chasing power without a clear program, without a clear plan, then you have free SHS in this chaotic state. Because you want to be president, but you don't have a vision. So let me say something. Well, I'll give you free SHS. No thinking, no plan, no nothing. And so for the first time in the history of this country, you cannot even pay. Because when I was going to school, I knew that I went to SS. I knew that January, first term will start, second week in January. I knew that April, we will go on vacation. I knew that around, you could predict. You understand? And the test of the viability of any system is the predictability of that system. So when you have a system where you can't predict, the system is there's no system really. But I want to be president. I don't have a vision. I don't have a message. Because you can't give what you do not have. You see, bless. The problem we have in this country is not because we have a bad leader. The problem we have in this country is because we do not have a leader. Because there's a difference. If you have a bad leader, then you have a leader, except that he is bad. Because you have a leader. Talk about Hitler, Adolf Hitler. When you are analyzing Adolf Hitler just in terms of leadership, he'll be in your top 5 of leadership. But was he a good leader? Because what did he use his leadership skills to pursue? So he's a bad leader because he did not use that leadership skill he had to advance the cause of his people. In our case, it's not that we have a bad leader. Bless, we don't have a leader. You need to understand that we don't have a leader. The fact that you have a president, doesn't mean you have a leader. There are two different things. The president, I'm happy that I have my professor here and I have my blue economist here. Academic, they can explain to you because you have positional leader. And president is not leader. So you have the position. I'm president. It doesn't mean you're a leader. It doesn't mean you're a leader. Because right now, what direction are we going? What direction clearly are we going as a people, as a country? So I'm saying all this so that the people of Ghana understand, first of all, the power they themselves have. Let us never forget what has happened in this country in the last 8 years. Let us never forget. Let us use this as a guide to what can happen to us as a people when we pick a no leader to lead us. Because like I'm saying, when throughout the world, it is right that the safest investment, the risk-free investment, is government bonds. That principle has been breached in Ghana. So the price you pay for choosing a no leader to lead you is some of the age-long principles we never thought have been tampered with. Would you have right now, how many, you can do every research, how many Ghanaians will have the confidence to put their monies in the bank? Once you don't have the intermediate system, you are finished as a people. In just 8 years, the middle class has practically been wiped away. Poverty is now smiling at us. You understand? But that's the price we pay when we go and instead of looking at the character of people, we look at them through the lenses of their party colors. Instead of analyzing the competence of people, we look at them because he belongs to a certain profession. The fact that you're a lawyer doesn't mean that you have wisdom. The fact that you're an economist doesn't mean you have wisdom. The fact that you are a professor or a doctor doesn't mean you have wisdom. Because when you want a leader who has wisdom, who has valor, who has character, who has compassion, who has empathy. But when you go and choose leaders only because of their party coloring, when you go and choose leaders only because of the tribe they belong to, when you go and choose leaders only because of the profession they are practicing, and you do not take into consideration their character, you don't take into consideration their competence, you don't take into consideration the extent of their empathy, their ability, their commitment to what they are saying, then you have a situation where the fiber that holds society, that holds the people, will be destroyed. And in that case, there's a danger of bringing about chaos. And so, not to talk too much, I wish the people of Liberia very well. I only advise their president to just take Ghana as a special case. You understand? And understand that if he wants to bring true democracy to his people, not a third of democracy like we are practicing in this country, but through democracy, then he must do a lot of things, or he must not do a lot of things we are doing in this country. Because what we are doing here, what we think is democracy, is not democracy, it's a sham. And come 2024, this year, 7th December, they want to even change to November. I don't know.
That's
but come the election day, we will have a chance to change that. And that change will start when we vote for Honorable Alan John Kojo Chairman of the Movement for Change.
Right.
To create the system where we will now have true democracy.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Council woke up this morning and chose violence.
I was going to say, we talking about
That's how we become now.
Right. It's like when you say describe a bed, you say a message of it.
Right. Our next topic for discussion, by the way, but let me remind you that you can also be part of the conversation. I always say that not only our panelists here get the opportunity to share their opinions with us, you also can do same. Our text line is very active. I see that some of your messages are already coming in. Continue to send them. I'll read them in the course of the show. The next topic for discussion, by the way, EC proposes November for elections. It appears that this electoral commissioner has a lot of electoral reforms, in quotes, so to speak, for this country, from the doing away with the indelible ink, issues relating to the Ghana card, closing polls at 3 p.m. Now she wants to move the date for the elections from December 7th to November. I don't know which particular day in November that she's proposing, but this paper says that the EC chair's proposal to hold the election in November comes after a petition by the Seventh-day Adventist Church for the country to reconsider the December 7th date for general elections. But I don't think that is the reason for which the EC is making this proposal. Now let me go to the reasons for which the EC is making the proposal. It says the EC boss, however, said the commission was prepared to hold the elections in November and assured the political parties that further discussions would be held on the proposal, including consultations with various stakeholders. The proposal to change the election date from December 7th to November is not a novelty. In July 2016, a bill to change the country's election date from December 7th to November failed to pass in Parliament as it could not garner the needed 2/3 of votes required by law. Despite assurances from the EC, only 125 MPs voted for the change and 95 voted against it. A total of 55 MPs were absent from the chamber and therefore did not partake in the voting. The Commission had argued that holding the elections earlier would enable a sufficient transition period within which one government hands over power to another after every election year. So the argument is in relation to the transition period. But do we have a problem with that transition period generally? I'd want to find out. Let me start with you, Prof. Do we have a problem with that 1 month transition period from December 8th or 9th after the election has been declared to January 6th? Do we have a problem with it?
I think, let me say that it's the EC is interesting. It's interesting. The current EC under the leadership of Jean Mensa is interesting. Why do I say they are interesting? It's like they are cherry picking. I'm not sure what their next proposal is going to be. And to be playing around with suggestions of proposals in an election year for this type of election, I think it's walking on very slippery grounds. Okay. And I don't know why, and I'm saying that they are cherry picking because one time you hear, oh, we are going to close the polls at 3. Another time you hear biometric verification devices are sufficient, so we are cancelling indelible ink. Another time you hear we are changing the election to November. I think we should put a few things straight. What the EC is calling for now is very different, as you alluded to in the beginning, from what the people are appealing that election should not be held on the prayer days. Okay, the Seventh-day Adventist Church is saying that we should change the date of the election for this year because, in their opinion, it's happening on a day of prayer, and then they wish that it could be on a different day. That is something that can be debated, and I think it calls for more dialogue and to find out, are there middle grounds? Because when we fix on a particular date, as it rotates, it may land on a day of prayer. In this country, the days of prayers are on Friday, on Saturday, and on Sunday. So does that mean anytime we get there, we make a change? So we need to discuss that, and I think that the position of our party is that we should have proper dialogue on this. It's possible to find a middle ground. But that is completely different from what the EC is asking for, which is changing the election dates.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that 2 elections occur on the 7th of December currently. Mm-hmm. That's the election of the parliamentarians and the election of the president. The EC has the power to bring a CI that can change the date for the election of the president. But she will require 2/3 of parliamentary votes to be able to change the date for the election of the parliamentarians. And I think there's a legal person here who might confirm that. So this failed in the earlier attempt under 2016 when they tried it, because yes, you can bring a CI, and if the CI is passed, you can change easily. But the date for the election of the parliamentarians, to the best of my knowledge, is enshrined in the Constitution, and that will require you need 2/3 of votes in Parliament to be able to make that change. It is easy asking for the dual change, and what is informing that? Transition. Have we had a situation where any government has told you that the transition period was too short, or a sitting government said we could not hand over properly, or the government that takes over says, oh, we didn't get enough? Look, in Africa, and especially in Ghana, and for what we are seeing in this country, a prolonged transition period is extremely dangerous. Very dangerous.
It gives room for...
Bless. Go into this country and look at the contracts that are signed between 7th December and 7th January. Go and see contracts that are signed. Go and see the number of EIs that are passed, executive instrument legislative. Just go and take a look at them and see. So I think that what the EC should be doing...
An appointment to protected officers.
Yes! Look, officers that their tenure is protected, that time is when you fill them up. And you prolong it for how long? 2 more months? Then you will come in as a government and you'll be managing a situation where everything has been set for you and you struggle to deal with. In fact, the 1 month maybe is even a bit too long. but
1 week.
Because look, no serious person planning to govern will come elected and not be ready. By now you have your pseudo critical ministers, you have a transition team. All serious political parties even have in their constitution how to establish bodies that will help in transition. I can say that for a fact. Our party has, within enshrined our constitution, a body established to liaise between the government and the party, and how to ensure the government is governing according to our manifesto pledge that we make to the people. And all these are set up way before election date. So why will you tell us that after election you need 2 good months to do that? The EC needs to come again. And I think that EC should put all their cards on the table. This situation where we wake up today is indelible ink. Tomorrow is something else. I'm not sure what is next to come. And that unpredictability is dangerous for our democracy. I think he mentioned that systems must be predictable. If you have proposals to electoral reforms, bring all of them to the table. Let us have a bigger dialogue. And this dialogue for major changes like this should not be at only the IPAC. We should have involvement at the grassroots level, because this affects the entire country. So you don't come with proposals that only you know, reasons that we do not know. You know very well that this proposal was tried and it was thrown out in Parliament. And you are suggesting it again. And even if you had that intention, why wait to the election year? So what sufficient time will you have for consultation? And that is where there's a recipe for disaster. Look, he mentioned the inclusivity of governance. In a country that I studied partly, they are coming to destroy a building. They call a town council meeting. Everybody is allowed to come in. They want to create a recreational park. They announce a date for a public meeting. People, ordinary citizens, have the opportunity to come and make their minds known concerning that decision. Do they support it? Do they not support it? And the leaders listen. What are we seeing in this country? I want to do it and I'll do it my way. Whether you like it or not, I will still do it. And that's the attitude that we are. I am particularly concerned about the attitude of the EC. The EC chair, her posturing, her demeanor with someone. Look, even if you have very good intentions for it, you must be sensitive to the timing. You must be sensitive to the environment you are in. And I'm saying that you've been EC chair for how long? This is a major reform you want to make. What prevented you from, you have district offices across the whole country. What prevented you from starting a major discussion across all the districts? Let your district offices call for town hall meetings. Let ordinary citizens come and be heard. And list out all your proposals. Pick up opinions. By the time you are coming to IPAC, you have a groundswell of information on what the people want, what they do not want, what the issues are. Because you are there acting on our behalf. And let her not kid herself, nor anybody in a protected office. Yes, you may be protected from political influence, but you're not protected from the citizens. We put you there. The Supreme Court, the EC, every public office that has a protected tenure, you are doing that, you are administering that office on behalf of the people of Ghana. And so you cannot be so independent from us. Then who are you administering it on their behalf? So why can't you engage? So I just want to re-emphasize that. This November date being mentioned to us at the end of January in an election year is a no, no, no. Indelible ink being scrapped is a no, no, no. Election on prayer days, the current data does not support it, and I can give you some data to back it, because if you look at our voter turnout, it doesn't support it. But there is room for discussion on that, and I think that.
No, I don't get that.
Let me give it to you. So, for instance, in 1992, election was on a Tuesday, which is not a prayer day. Voter turnout was 50%. 50.16. In 1996, election was on a Saturday, which is a prayer day. Voter turnout was 78.
Okay.
0.20%.
I now get it.
2000, election was on a Thursday, not a prayer day, typical prayer day in Ghana. Voter turnout 61%. 2004, election was on a Tuesday, not a prayer day. Voter turnout 85%.
Sunday, the next 20.
Sunday.
Yeah, 2008.
2008, voter turnout 71%, less than the previous year when it was not on a prayer day. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So if you look at it, there's no trend to tell you that if you hold election on a Friday, a Saturday, or Sunday, it's typically associated with low voter turnout. It's neither here nor there. But I'm saying that there is a need, and people have called out. And I will not say we should be dismissive of it.
Yeah.
The EC should look at it. Several options can come up. One of them is that, okay, can we identify these people who will be affected? Can we have them vote after prayers? And that is when you say you are ending the elections at 3 p.m. in this state, in this country, then you're not being sensitive. Because if someone is an SDA practitioner and goes to church in the morning, closes at 2, rushing to her polling station to vote, and you tell that it's past 3, you've closed the election. Is that not chaos?
They actually close at 5.
No, but she's proposing to close at 3.
They've also that the SDA people close at 5.
So imagine. So even if they wanted to do something quick, when did they do that? So I'm saying that we can have a discussion. An option can be, okay, if we can make the change, fine. If you cannot make the change, could we add them to an early voting system?
Yeah.
That's one option, because the security people can vote early. If we can identify these people at the identified group and we can plan ahead, they could be allowed to vote early as part of the early voting. I think that, look, wisdom does not reside in one man's head. That is the reason why we should always consult. So I encourage the EC to put all her cards on the table and let us have a broad-based consultation, not only a typical IPAC consultation. Because if you want to maneuver the system, it's very simple.
Yeah.
You go to IPAC to look at it in numbers.
Yeah.
There are parties that they are not parties. The EC herself know, or the EC itself as an entity know that some parties, if you want to audit their accounts, if you want to look at their party offices in the region, they should have not been existing, but they are there. So if you gather those parties and you pass a vote, and 7 of those parties vote with one party in one direction, and say you have majority at IPAC, really, is that the will of the people of Ghana?
Yeah.
And are you sensitive to the environment of where you are dealing in? So I'm saying, look, let's have proper consultation on the voting on election days. For the emphasis and for the avoidance of doubt, I don't think we should dismiss it. I think we should discuss it. Discuss with the religious leaders from all the religious divides, the SDA, the general churches, the Islamic traditional people. All of us should be on this table to discuss it. We may find a middle ground, but as for the November date, it's a no. Closing the polls at 3 is a no.
Right.
That the EC should not even toy with it. If she has those ideas, she should wait. After this election, you have 4 years to the election. Start the process of consensus building from your district offices. I want to be in a town hall meeting where my chiefs, where my elders, where everybody, young and old, are there to be heard. And we should come up with a clear position of every district, what was agreed, what were the numbers in attendance, what were the points. By the time we get to the national level, we will have a sense of what the nation feels. You alone cannot sit down and think that you are wiser than everybody else. It's not possible.
Right.
We have paid a dear price, and this is my last submission, I'm sure we'll come to that. We've paid a dear price when, as a nation, some people in government think that they know it all. We have paid a dear price, and one of them is a distraction of our economy he's talking about. One of them, and I just said that last example. When we were faced with crisis, at some time, we had a leader who said, I don't know it all. I know something, I don't know it all. He called everybody into a consensus, called the Century Consensus, and we came up with a homegrown solution to take to the IMF. We have another leader who says, I'm not going to the IMF. I'm never going to the IMF. People are making the call. Go. Say, I won't go. Let's plan to go. You say, I won't go. Then you get to the IMF at a point where you have no room for negotiation, because at that point, your economy is on the verge of collapse, downgraded to junk, further junk. You cannot even pay salary. You are at that point, that verge. Whatever IMF throws at you, you take it. One of them is this thing that we are suffering with, which we'll talk about, the 15% on electricity. It has never happened in this country. It is when you fail to make the call early and you go and you cannot negotiate. That's what happens to you. That's what we are suffering from. We have never seen pensioners picketing and begging. When he mentioned that you have touched private packet, I was going to say you touched the packet of the dying. In addition, not just private packet of the dying. People who are on pension, hoping to live on their meager thing. You have the audacity to hold it and say that, look, whatever you say, what I know is the best. I think we have to think well in this country.
Right, thank you very much. Council, I'm coming to you. Prof raises a few arguments which I'd want us to look at legally in relation to the issues of the SDA, the Seventh-day Adventist. I know that one of their fundamental rights is the right to association and worship. But do you not think that if we decide that we are going to consider their plea, it opens, like a sort of Pandora box for other religious faiths, and also to come out and say, look, this particular day, I'm a traditionalist. I'm not supposed to go anywhere on a Tuesday. So I can't go out to vote on a Tuesday. Or I belong to this Christian sect that says that we are supposed to go to church on a Sunday. So we having elections on a Sunday is a no-no for me. Legally, do the SDA folks have a point? Do they have a case?
So, and before I answer your question, I want to thank Prof. Sometimes science makes things easier.
Yeah.
As when you have figures,
yeah,
and you are speaking, it makes things easier.
Yeah. And
I really appreciate the figures. I didn't have the figures.
Yeah.
But we voted on the Saturday before. We voted on the Sunday before.
Yeah.
Understand? And also, yes, we have a right to worship. The question is whether or not by the election day falling on a Saturday, whether their right to worship has been infringed upon. That's a simple question. Whether or not by the election day falling on the 7th December, their right to worship, whether or not we are forcing them, don't go and worship. Come on. No, nobody is doing that. You understand? Because also, mind you also have a right to vote.
Yeah.
You understand? So what it simply means that you haven't have a right to do something, but it does not mean that by all means you must do it. People have a right to marry, but some people don't marry. You understand? But it's a choice. So you have a right. There's no law in Ghana here, or by the elections happening on the 7th, nobody is infringing or stopping the people of the SDA extraction from going to worship. You understand? So that right is still there, and on that day, it's up to them to make that choice. And if you read the Bible, very well. I can see my blue economist friend is also a pastor. He's deep in there. So I mentioned David, and they say, "Hey, Charlie, you have a Bible scholar here."
Oh my
God! On the issue of the Sabbath, Jesus Christ answered that question. That we were not created for Sabbath. The Sabbath was what? Created for you. So if
man was not made for the law.
I see what you have a professor, you have a pastor, you don't have a problem. So when you fall sick on you won't go to hospital. You see, sometimes this now I'm playing. We won't embellish anything.
Yeah.
We've had elections on a Saturday before. So for me, it's not an issue. My issue is, you see, before you change, as per our predictability, Prof here also emphasize on predictability. So before you change a system that's working for you, then you must be able to demonstrate that the system that has served you right now is not working. You just don't change systems. So the EC, if she wants to, must demonstrate to the people of Ghana that indeed, listen, the 7th December is so outrageous, and consistently it is proven that voting on that date does not inure to our benefit or is inimical to the nation. Bless. Well, if it's so outrageous, it's something that we all know. When you call a child, 7 December, you can tell 7 December is not good at all. Can you? We've had a system that served us in 7 elections. Let's say 6 elections. But we are going to have the 8th election. Well, the first election we didn't vote on the 7th, did we? No. The very first election.
First time there was the distinct
dates. You understand? But we've had a system that's
parliamentary and presidential.
Yeah, you understand. Secondly, the issue of transition. One, when it comes to contracts, they're all supposed to be public documents. Because because there's a process before you can give a contract, which makes it public. And I can bet you that all the serious political institutions, bodies, be the parties, be the movement, be even people who are politically conscious, they are aware because they're public documents. So you don't do contracts in secret. In this country, you cannot surreptitiously go and sign a contract. No. Because there are certain approval processes, including sometimes parliamentary approvals, public procurement. That is public procurement, and so clearly, when it comes to those contracts, EIs are not secret documents. But most importantly, when it comes to the problems of this country, when you wake Blue Economy Man up, he will tell you, hi now. He's a serious intellectual. When you go and ask the boy, a simple man walking on the streets of Mokola, that what are the problems of this country, he will tell you. Because essentially, when we vote whoever in power, we are voting for you to come and do what? Solve the problems of this country. And when it comes to the problem of this country, there's always a transition team. Every day is a transition team day. Every day is a transition day. If the reason why you are calling for is because you want a transition, because you want a smooth handover, and the number one duty of whoever will be giving the executive authority of this country. Every day is a transition because you know the problems. One, lack of employment. If there's no employment, people have finished university. They don't have jobs to do. They finish tech, they finish level, and there are a lot of universities. And there's no job to do. In fact, that's why they tried to do the NAPCO thing. We wasted 2.1 billion on NAPCO because clearly there was no plan, no strategy to solve that job issue. 2, or let me put it this way, just take the IMF program, consistently the IMF program, and within that, you find the perpetual problems of this country. Because whenever we go to the IMF freezes public employment. No, so every time. Why? IMF freezes public employment because consistently the governments of this country have not been able to create a system where private sector will thrive. Because mind you, in any serious country, the number one creator of jobs is the private sector, not the public sector. Jobs are created by the private sector. And because they have refused to create an environment where private sector will thrive, so the jobs will be created. When they come into power, they always come on bashing the previous government on that failure. So when they come, they just employ people into the public sector. When I go to JNPC, you come Monday, Tuesday, you don't come. They are doing shifting cultivation there. Yet productivity has not increased in JNPC. Yeah, I'm telling you, they are doing shift. You go Wednesday, no, I don't come Wednesday. Someone will come.
You get a chair to sit on.
You get a chair to sit on. And yet productivity in JNPC has not increased. Why is that? So go to Bank of Ghana. How many people have a Bank of Ghana? Over 2,000. Over 2,000. In this economy, the size of our economy is less than 70 billion. The size of our economy is less than 70. You go to the state of California, the economy is about 4 billion, 4 trillion. The size of the economy of Ghana is less than 70 billion. It's something to be corrected. Economy is shrinking. Why do you need over 2,000 people in Bank of Ghana? Doing what? You understand? So I hear the MPs, so when they are speaking, so during this, their primaries.
They are managing your monetary policy.
And what people interested that. you just listen to the primaries, what the MPs are talking about. Hello. Oh, I had 5 slots. Are we in the slot country? Slots. I think we're in a slot country. Because when you listen to the primary, all they talk about is, I had 10 slots, and I give this guy 1 slot, and I give this guy 2 slots. And I give this guy 3 slots. So we are in a slot country. The company, the MPs, that's what they're talking about. Because they only talk about slots. And slots become an issue because there are no jobs in the private sector. Now, all these useless taxes, they are taxed now. I know when you go and take, what's it called? You go to a restaurant, you go and you take the bill. And then they should continue. They print out the taxes. Hey, small food, man, go chop. The tax. What's the link between COVID and my going to eat? Yes, COVID, still we are paying COVID. The taxes. Why? Because it is a fact that when it comes to tax, it is the private sector that pay tax. Do government pay tax? It's the private sector that pays tax. So when you kill your private sector, you won't get a tax. It's not rocket science. Even if you don't have a private sector, you won't get the revenue you need.
That's why now they're taxing your electricity.
They're not getting it. You understand? So you don't get the revenue, then you go out borrowing. Yeah. You go about because government is refusing to cut their quota. When we said this is democracy. Mm-hmm. Remember when I was in secondary school, none of my friends, their parents were MPs at that time. They used Vento. When we became an MP, they gave you some houses. At that time, Sakon was far away. It was not in the 96 there. Then they gave you Vento. No, Vento. The President Ford came. He gave them Peugeot. You remember? Right now they give them V8 275. Everybody V8. See, you high airplane. So we don't have money. But our taste, the taste of government, and so you go out borrowing. You do projects that does not make sense. You understand? He said it's because of COVID you couldn't do a sky train. Right now you're advertising some trains that are going to impact on what traffic is there. What traffic is there, so you are going to use it for propaganda purposes. You brought train. 2024. So you bought one train, is that an achievement? But you are struggling to bring train because you want to show the world whether you are doing something. As to whether it will endure to your benefit, whether or not it will bring an improvement in their life, that one is not your concern. And so when it comes to the problems, the problems for which reason we need a transition, we know that one, government has deliberately refused to build the private sector because they just want control. And we know that as of 2024, that system that we've run and perpetuated for a very long time has crashed. And so come 2025, whoever will become government must exhibit incredible leadership and must have a very robust plan. We know, and that person ought to know. And so His Excellency John Mahama must have a plan by now. He must have a clear understanding of his problems of the country by now.
He does have.
You understand?
And
you talk about
so he can make a promise.
A
lot of problems because of what we are dealing with.
Sido was. I had the opportunity of meeting my brother here, and we spoke outside. Gave me proper blue economy. What's it called? Strategy. Somebody says he introduce blue economy. Somebody says he introduce blue economy. Even he will go through some form of transition. Even though he doesn't have credibility, he must understand the problems. But he doesn't have credibility, even though he does not have credibility, he must still understand the problems. Then we have also the man who has overwhelming credibility, has overwhelming competence, overwhelming leadership, and he also understands the plan. So clearly we understand the problem. That the problem that any government will be dealt with, or has to deal with, the fact that with huge lack of credibility in the system. Because the whole Ghana, the country, we don't have credibility. You don't have credibility from within the locals. So we don't buy bonds. You know, obvious, it will take like 3 generations before people start buying government bonds. So you don't have credibility in local. And you also don't have credibility international. So where are you going to get the money? That's the problem that we have been dealt with. You don't need any 2 months transition to understand that that's the problem you have been dealt with. And we also know that in this harsh, no money system, you must find a way of building a private sector. Because really, therein lies the solution to solve 1, your ability to raise revenue, 2, the job creation. Because it's the private sector, it's the SME, and there are so many examples so all over the world. You go to America, powerful America, and 60% of the jobs in America are created by their SME. You go to Poland, over 70%. You go to Australia. So therein lies the solution. How do you build and create a credible private sector? And you must know. So I know you've given me a sign. My time is up. But I must add that, listen, there's no need. I differ slightly from my prof here. I don't think there's a need, or there can be any justification for why we must change the 7th December. The 7th December must be maintained. And 2, I said the EC clearly has a lot of money on its hands. We will go and check the EC's budget.
I think I agree with you on that.
Oh, you agree?
Okay. What I just said was for the faith-based one, we should have a discussion and see how we can help them.
Fantastic.
But for the 7th December,
but it should be maintained.
But I don't see it.
Yeah, you understand?
Yeah.
The EC, go and check the EC's budget, plenty money. I was just checking the releases, billions. So you have money, but you must show. And that's why they forgive you plenty money. So you go and find problem where there's no problem. Then the real issues that needs reform. 1, where we have a system where you can have a president who cannot put the national interest ahead of his party's interest. So you appoint party apparatchiks into the EC. That tells us that we need some reform in the appointment system of the EC. Those are real reforms. 2, situations where there are disputes in parliamentary elections. It can drag even beyond the term. That's a reform, a need for reform. These are real reforms, not indelible ink,
right?
Not dates.
Right.
And so,
thank you.
I beg you, Madam EC, focus your attention on the real reforms and just take this advice for those of us who love football. That after a football game, you know that the referee has done very well when there's no discussion about the referee. Yeah. So we know that the EC is doing very well when we don't hear about the EC in the news. When we are not discussing the EC. So the EC should take that cue and do her job well. They won't even be discussing her.
Yeah, but I mean, before I come to it's the restart. Let me find out from you, Prof. Yeah. You raised the question about these smaller parties that are insignificant. I mean, for the want of a better word, when it comes to the number of votes that they even garner during election days, but the very fact that they count during the taking of these decisions at IPAC meetings. Do you not think that it is high time some parties had veto power?
Political party veto power.
No, at IPAC I mean. At the IPAC I mean. So where
IPAC decisions are in themselves not binding.
They're not binding. Yes, they are not binding.
So they are only in an advisory capacity.
That is, you notice that at some point our party walked out of IPAC.
Yes.
And it was because of some of these things where you go in with a suggestion and even it will not be taken, and so you just go to sit there to endorse a decision that has already been made, whether you like it or not. And because by the law your decision is not binding, as he has alluded to, then it becomes something else. And then to justify, the point I was trying to make is that to justify it, they bring these smaller parties and say 7 parties took the decision that we want to go this way, you know. So maybe not the word veto, but if we want to have a fairer system, it should be proportional voting. I'm not sure if that's the best term for it, but we look at the strength of the party in terms of either its parliamentary representation, which may knock off a lot of parties because they don't have at all in parliament, or we look at their presence on the ground. You see, having met all the requirements that a political party should meet, before you are allowed, you should be allotted some number of votes. I have served on some international bodies. Now when we go there and we are voting, one country, I represent Ghana, I raise my card, and my vote is 5 votes. Somebody is representing the US, and he raises his card, and the vote is 32 votes. So, and it's based on several factors that come in. So they can look at some proportional voting that makes the decision fair. But like I'm saying, I think when the reform is major, there should be broad-based consultation before it gets up there.
Right. Mr. Rista.
Yes, boss.
Yeah.
Well, but the people have said it all. Except to say that probably as a fisherman who doesn't understand these things.
Oh.
On Tuesday, the fishermen will hold elections. we will elect new leaders to lead our fishing industry. So.
Are you contesting for something?
Why is it on a Tuesday?
Because we don't fish on Tuesday.
Okay.
Generally.
I thought as much.
So,
I thought as much.
Anyway, in the first place, it dealt extensively with the issue of the SDA's request, which I know they have also consulted extensively with some other religious bodies for them to have a consensus. You know, the SDA people hold the Saturday with so much.
Yeah, it's very sacred.
It's so sacred for them that sometimes, even if their own house is burning, they may not even use a fire extinguisher because they may consider that to be working. And well, we also allude to the fact that Jesus said that man was not made for the law was made for the man. And on that day, he felt that he needed to heal the person. If he didn't do it that day, he may not have done it on another day. His disciples were allowed to pluck the food and eat on the Sabbath. It tells you that there was the need for the Sabbath because it tells us that we should rest. We cannot do work all day. So God had a rest on the 7th day. So you work, and at some point you need rest. But I'm also a Bible-believing Christian, and I believe that what we need to go to heaven sometimes are not these doctrines, but some people hold the doctrines with so much passion that you need to be careful what you say about it, because that's what they believe in, that's what they've been taught to live by. But it should not be reason to just hold the whole system at bay. I think Prof was quite extensive on it. If it becomes very necessary, it should be possible to add the SDA people to those who go for special voting. That is, if there's a way of proving that. And if that has to be done, then it has to be done early enough in order to get them properly captured in the system. Because the right to vote is a right that is guaranteed under the Constitution, and that nobody should be denied the right to vote when the person is willing to vote. And so we should allow them to do their voting. The journalists people said they don't vote, and nobody asks them to go and vote. They are living their lives, and they allow us to go about our voting without any hindrance. So, to me, that is not the basis. There have been attempts to have that date change. But why are we voting for parliamentary and presidential at the same time? In 1992, the other political parties, apart from the Great Alliance, the NDC, the Electoral Party, and a few political parties, after the presidential election, the rest boycotted the parliamentary elections, because the presidential elections were held earlier in November, and so the rest boycotted it. So then a decision was made to avoid the boycott, to have both the presidential and the parliamentary elections happen simultaneously. And so that is why we are where we are. Do we need to bring the elections back in November? Ordinarily, for the purposes of transition, some of us would have said yes. But the dangers inherent therein, in having a long transition, and what executive power could do with such long transition, is a challenge. But what about the transition itself? You see, every ministry has a chief director. Every assembly has coordinating director.
Coordinating director, yes.
Every state agency has directors. And so what they have to do is to write their handing over notes and provide all their transitional processes and make them available. I think we passed a transition act that guides the processes for transition. So we know at what point all handing over notes should be ready and where they have to be deposited. The party coming into government, even if there is continuity, still would have to take the transition notes, because you don't have the same ministers who will be reappointed to the same ministries. They may, but at least there should be some transitional arrangements for whoever is taking over. One of the biggest challenges we may face now has to do with the fact that most of the technical people who had risen through the ranks and were supposed to be heading state institutions and the technical divisions of the ministries and police body had been replaced by pure politicians.
Special assistants.
No, they've been
replaced.
Yes, so you get to a point where you probably may aspire to be the chief director, the executive director or something. Then you end up being a deputy or marking time, because the political party would impose somebody on the system. And so you really do not have the bite of the actual technical work that is supposed to go into the transition, because then the person who has the institution, instead of being a pure technical person, becomes a politician. So there is a difficulty of trust when it comes to dealing with that person in the transition process. Because if it was a technical person who has not been involved, everybody may have his or her political inclination. But then, if I know I'm dealing with a pure technical person who is the head of the unit, and is the head of the unit basically mainly because he had risen through the ranks and gotten there. And so when I come, whatever information he gives me, I would have to accept it, because he is the person who's been there and have a continuity, because he has a secure tenure. It's so different from when I come and I know that this person was engaged because he has a political affiliation. And so then the transition process will become a bit difficult, because then every document that is given would have to be verified against what the fact really would be on the ground. And I'm sure that would prolong a little bit the entire transition process. And we have developed a culture of appointing caretaker ministers who will go to the ministries before their real appointment time comes. But ordinarily, if we trust the system and we trust the technical people there, we may not even need to appoint caretaker ministers into positions when the constitution doesn't make or the law doesn't make provision for caretaker ministers, so that the technical people can just hold the fort until real people are appointed and approved by Parliament. In cases where they have to be approved by Parliament, for the MMDAs, they are approved by the various assemblies to take over and run the system the way the system is supposed to run. So we have caused a lot of damage to our system, such that transition arrangements will be a challenge because of issues of who is writing the report and who is signing the report. Because generally, is for instance, chief directors who are supposed to, but they are in control of the ministries. The ministers are policy people, but the chief directors are supposed to be there. They are supposed to do all the technical things and get approval from the ministers. And so we have a problem on our hand when it comes to managing these transitions because of the way we have politicized almost all our systems, and people who are supposed to play very neutral role in the system for want of favor may want to identify with one political party or the other. We've gotten to a point where people may even leak vital information from their ministries to persons who are not supposed to know those information. And people will point to you who and who in an office belong to political party A or political party B. The way we've done our politics is worrying if we do not take steps to reform the way we do things. Because, you see, it looks more like the politics is becoming a reward system. That I need to belong to a political party in order that I can better my life. And that I need to hold on to the apron strings of persons who are holding political offices whose salaries are nothing to write home about, in order that I can better my life. And if we don't take steps to reform that, we have a problem. Why are we here? We are here also because we have deliberately, whether consciously or unconsciously, made the private sector inactive and practically killed the private sector. In the bid to reform the educational system and allow for technical education, which is what drives the development of a nation, rather made academic excellence the thing. And so we boast of how many students pass in an exams rather than how many of them are able to stand on their feet and face life and are able to be innovative and have some entrepreneurship skills to not look at government. We have also not created the ambience that allow these young people to be self-sufficient and independent, and know that if we, for instance, are saying we no longer want to have a lot of plastics in our system, can I go to probably a church like, I'm an Anglican, and say, well, I have an idea that would mean that you will not have pure water again, or pure water sachet bottles anymore. That at church service, we should be able to provide cups. That every member who comes to church should have a cup, and there's a water dispenser. And so I'm going to design cups for your church. So you have cups that every member have. Proud Anglican, he comes to church and all he does, and so there are water dispensers everywhere. He fetches water. And we do that in the universities and all of that. And if somebody takes up a project like this and provides cars, can you imagine how many people and how much waste plastic is going to take out of the system? So our system is not letting people be innovative. And the people they could even approach with plans and proposals are not receptive. Because assuming somebody wants to do this at Ashin Chapel, can you imagine the number of bodyguards the person would have to confront with before he's able to meet the overseer of the Ashin Chapel, the Papa? Whereas it was so easy for children to access Jesus Christ, it is now more difficult to access a leader, both political and Christian and even Muslim leaders, than it was for ordinary people to access Jesus Christ. When it,
how easy is it to access the Jeffrey boss?
To access the
Jeffrey boss.
no, but it's worrying that we cannot access our leaders.
It's because we don't trust the society. We have created a society we don't trust.
So you see that if we don't trust the system, even if Christian leaders do not trust the church members they call their shepherd, their sheep, then it's a problem. So we have major issue of trust. I'm sure when Jean Minsa was at the Institute of Economic Affairs, a lot of people have a lot of admiration for her, and probably most of the things she said at IEA are not the things she's doing now. No. Recently, my Okoye, the former speaker, has reasons to criticize her approach. You see, being independent doesn't mean that you are in a world of your own. No. There are systems, there are laws that are supposed to regulate, and that is why your budget would have to be approved by some people who may decide that we will not grant this budget. That is why there's always an opportunity for your decisions to be tested in the court. And the courts would always have the right to say, no, this decision cannot pass because it conflicts with some law. That is why there are processes for your removal. If in the performance of your duty, you do not conform to the laws and policies and principles that guide your office. So being in an independent institution and heading an independent institution doesn't make you an island of your own. And that decisions that you make, particularly in matters of election, have so much to do with the peace of this country. Look at what's happening in Seoul today. A whole group of people have been denied the opportunity to have a representation in parliament. And so all the things that are happening in parliament, they are not represented. And look at how long it's taking for the judicial process to even go through. And then you have the MP now come with to seek leave of the court to now make appearance and enter his plea and all of that. It's worrying. And these are all part of the trust system we are talking about. So the people of SAL today may not trust the electoral system. They will have issues forever with the fact that they were denied the opportunity to vote for who would represent them as a people in parliament. And that is why the EC would have to be very mindful of what decisions they make and to what extent they consider input, not just from political parties, but from because elections are not only for political parties. People have right to contest as independent from members of parliament all the way to the presidential. There are assembly elections that are being held. For instance, we will hold our election as fishermen. We expect the EC to supervise our fishermen election, however we hold it. And so we expect that the EC create that enabling environment for people to be able to interact with them, for them to know the feel of what we call the ordinary Ghanaian. I don't know if there are, in dealing with these issues that keep coming. To me, the EC can do better than what they are doing now, when occasionally they throw something into the public domain and want to hear what people will say about whatever they, because it's like they test the waters. Let's put this out there and hear what the people will say. If they want to do broad-based consultation, they should do it. We want to do the election, have the elections in November. Let people come with their opinion. I expect the EC to have a research unit. The research unit should be able to conduct periodic research, surveys and research, and have the opinion of the people on some of these things. They can do electronic surveys, and because a lot of people are on social media and have opinion on some of these things, and then factor them into what decisions that are made, how they develop their CIs, and make them available for approval. By that, you get a broad-based information that would feed into whatever decision you are making. To make it look like it is me, I have been given the power, and what I say is what happened. There's a Saban couldn't finish announcing his results when he had to jump the window and run away. I think in 78 or so, because you see, it is the people, it's the will of the people. The people can at any day rise. The people they can at any day, right? Because power, the Constitution gives the authority of the state to the people.
You are only acting
you understand?
On their behalf.
So persons who are given the opportunity to be in positions only have an opportunity, and that opportunity is only bad for a short time. Look, those who have been in parliament from the beginning of parliament, today there is none of them who is in parliament from 92. The last was the Speaker of Parliament. All his contemporary in parliament are out of parliament. There is none that started parliament with him today. Honorable Sir Chebu came in 96. So today there is nobody in parliament who started in 92. It means that everything is temporal. And it's an opportunity. So you do what you have to do it well, and leave the stage. Let others come and do it. You don't make it look like if I am not there, nobody can do it. When you were not there, somebody did it. Whether you are doing it better today or you are not doing better today, somebody did it. Look, Afarijan went through a lot. He had a lot of criticism, but in all of that, he still managed to carry the nation with him. NDC criticized him, MPP criticized him, but today when people mention Afarijan, he's seen as a hero, because whatever, no matter how serious the situation looks, he was calm. He respected the views of the people. He may disagree with the views, but he won't throw it at people's faces and make them look so irrelevant, as if he has all wisdom dwelling only in him. He carried the people along, and people from all political walk of life today give Dr. Kwajo Afarijan a lot of respect for how far he's carried this country and where we are today. Because if he messed that from the beginning, especially when we're transiting from a military era into a civilian era, he would have thrown this country into a terrible state. But he was tactful, he was careful, he knew how to get things done, and things were done. So we expect that persons who have taken over from Dr. Kwajo Afarijan should be able to do things better. We need to have a better system. We shouldn't have challenges with registering people. You have, in fact, the difficulties some of us went through to get young people to register in the immediate past registration was so serious. Because you need to move people. These are young, unemployed people who do not see benefits of voting. Some time past, we could use the voter ID card for everything. Now you can't even use it in the bank.
Yeah.
So it has no other relevance
to them
apart from voting.
Yeah.
So if he votes once in 4 years, and because of that he has to now go and look for money to pick a vehicle, go and queue, buy food to eat for a card that he will use once in every 4 years, he won't do it, because what is relevant to them today is the national ID card and not the voter ID card. So people would have to be motivated, would have to be probably to the extent of saying cajoled to go out there and register. So the EC probably would have to look again at itself and its approach to dealing with matters that are related to Ghana's elections, because we have a EC that has cut a niche for itself, and many other countries, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, have looked to Ghana's electoral processes and are following. And this is not the time to create a sham of our electoral system.
Right, thank you very much. Yeah. Unfortunately, we can't have we can't discuss the last topic. We are hard pressed with time. We have just about 3 minutes more. Let me use that time to read messages from our viewers. Every reasonable human being is always ready to pay taxes, but not when the taxes are mismanaged and abused. Asanko from Santa Maria, you sent us this message. Thank you so much, and many thanks for doing the watching. Law must be made that any party which is not represented in parliament be disqualified as a party. Okay, thank you so much for your message. You didn't tell me your name. Good morning, Bless. History keeps on going. The AC Bojan Mensah should understand one day she will be like a candle in the wind, and her record will cover her entire family. She can do all that she wants to destroy Ghana, but she will be remembered with either good or bad. By Baba Alaji from Pru West. Thank you so much, Baba Alaji, for your message. This one here says that good morning, Pan-African TV. I think the EC is being power drunk. Her demeanor and posture speaks it all. I mean, how on earth can she keep playing dummy with our long-built democracy, with her indecisive electoral inconsistencies and what have you? Jane Mensah is unfit for this delicate and serious business, which, if not carefully tackled and catered for, could plunge this precious country of ours into chaos and a state of pandemonium. Tombawo Charles from Domahin and the Bruno region sent this message. Thank you so much. This one here says, bless, are the Seventh-day Adventists based only in Ghana? Are they not also in the US, Australia, and other countries? Our election dates moved about to satisfy small interest. Uncle Sam from Spintex sent this message. Thank you, Uncle Sam, for your text. Good morning, Kuku. In fact, when I listen to Council, I find it very difficult to understand some of his submissions. Some few months back, he was defending the MPP. He's not defending them again. That is what you have to understand. It's as simple as that. even some few months back, I'm not sure. Yeah. A lot of Japanese disagree. Exactly. I understand. I agree with you. Good morning, blessing your panelists. I think that the EC and the MPP are trying to destroy the country with their selfish interest. I was a polling station agent for my brother's wife on the just ended district level election, and we encountered a lot of problems. Elections ended around 12 a.m. because of the verification machine. It was not helping, and the manual verification process was bad. So the EC should rethink. Moses from Bolga Kabiuth sent this message. Kweku Dia on Facebook says, changing the December 7 election to any other day should not be in any group of people or religious interest. Samuel Opabene Amponsa says, great submission by the incoming MP for the Lambusi constituency. Thank you so much. This one here says, Parliament must stop this arrogant EC chair. No indelible ink, closing of voting at 3 p.m. and now elections in November instead of December. What is this woman up to? Ibrahim Boss says, hi, good morning. Bless, I'm watching you live from Hillsborough in New Jersey. Thank you so much, Ibrahim Boss.
Fruity truly African.